Someone before Mass said, "Father, isn't it a little greener this morning? Aren't the clouds a little whiter?" And I was like, "What?" Oh, yeah, they are. Absolutely. So, it's interesting. Yesterday, obviously, half of us are probably excited. Half of us aren't so excited. I apologize for the other half. But we win some, we lose some, But yesterday, I went to Novi to baptize the son of one of my best friends from high school. So why I'm telling you this is because I was driving home during the first half of the game. So I'm, not really able to watch it. I'm listening to it, and, that's not as good as watching it, but that was okay. Got home, watched the third quarter, and then, of course, watched most of the fourth, and then once J.J. McCarthy fumbled, I had to leave because, confessions. I was like, for a moment I thought, confessions, the game. They're like, no, I gotta go to confessions. So of course I came over here, and it was a little bit while before I figured out who won. But because I came over here first, I didn't wear my green shoes. And I wasn't even thinking about wearing them because I didn't make that deal this time. I never said I would wear them if state won, and I said that last spring. Well, of course, it felt like every Michigan State fan came last night to Mass. "Father, where are your shoes? Father, where are your shoes?" They'll be here tomorrow, okay? I promise, they'll be here tomorrow. So there we are. But if you were watching the game, one of the commercials right now that you see all the time, is from T-Mobile. So T-Mobile has this commercial where there's this young couple, and they're out to dinner, and you have this moment where it looks like the guy's going to propose. So he gets up from the table, he kneels down on one knee, he looks at his beautiful girlfriend, and he says, "Here's this awesome iPhone." And I'm thinking, man, what are we doing? Real love is not about a phone, it's about people, right? Persons. And of course, by the end of the commercial, they're both so excited about this phone. And, why do commercials do this? Why do they make it look like we're falling in love with a thing, with an item? Because it works. Because many of us do love our technology. I am an Apple guy. I love my iPhone. It's awesome. But, the interesting thing about my iPhone is it tells me every Sunday. So I'm sure I have a notification when I'm done with Mass that'll tell me how much time I spent looking at it every day. And sometimes I look at that number on Sunday and I think, oh boy, that's a little high. And other times I think, oh, I'm only a little bad. I'm not that bad, But it gives me that time of how much I spend on it. We also do something else with phones. We give it emotional energy. Think about maybe when you're bored, what do? We pick up our phone. Maybe we don't even know what we're going to do when we pick it up. But many of us, one of my top apps that I waste time on is, go figure, our sports app, right? But for many of us, it might be Instagram, it might be Facebook, scrolling through all the feeds and new pictures, and it might be TikTok. I don't have one, but someone just showed me this priest on TikTok something Holy Spirit activate thing, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but he's pretty popular right now, so enjoy if you look him up. But we can waste time by giving just all of our emotional energy to our phones. Time, money, and emotional energy. 3 different things that we can use as a barometer to show what or where our heart belongs. If you think about what we spend our time on, what we spend our money on, and what we give our emotional self to is an indicator of where our heart belongs. And the beautiful thing for us, the challenging thing I should say for us this weekend, is Jesus wants our hearts. Jesus longs for our hearts, and he wants our hearts to belong to him. And I think all of us have something in our lives that takes us away from the Lord, and we spend our time, money, and energy on. For some of us, it might be sports, right? For some of us, it might be our phones. It could be anything. But these aren't bad things, but if they become the most important thing, if they become the thing that we are always on and always spending our time with, then it's out of whack. It's out of order. Jesus needs to be the one. Jesus wants our hearts. And so this weekend he says to us, love the Lord your God, that great Shema prayer from the Old Testament. We heard it both in the first reading and in our gospel. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. There's 4 ways to love God. 4 different ways to love our God. So, how do we love God with our hearts? We definitely don't want to call love just a feeling, but I do think there is an aspect of love that is emotional. So if you're watching the game yesterday, if you're like me, when Michigan threw that 95-yard touchdown pass, you thought, oh, it's going to be a long day, and you're angry already, Or if you're a Michigan fan and the second fumble, you're probably thinking, oh my goodness, what are you doing? Or when your team wins, you're excited. We have an emotional response for things we love. To bring it more home, what about a funeral? What about someone you love who passes away? When people cry, that's a beautiful thing. Because tears aren't just that we're sad, tears also express great love. One of my favorite singers today, Ed Sheeran. A heart that's been broke is a heart that's been loved. That's what he says in a song, Supermarket Flowers, that he wrote about his grandma who passed away. We cry, we're emotional when people die because we were loved by them, and we love them in return. It's an emotional response. So how do we give our hearts to God? We give our emotional selves to him. So when we experience God's grace, maybe when we see someone experience God, we're moved emotionally by that. Or maybe on Good Friday, when we're celebrating and remembering Christ's sacrifice for us, maybe we're moved with tears that Christ would do this for me and you. To give our emotional selves to love God with all of our hearts. How about our souls? How do we love God with our soul? Well, I think we do that. There's that term soulmate, and it's good, it's bad. For today, I think it helps us remember that when we call someone a soulmate, I think what people really mean to say is this is someone that I can reveal my whole heart to. This is someone that I can share everything. This is someone that's going to know my hopes, my joys, my dreams, my sorrows, everything. I'm going to share my whole soul. Chosen fans, there's that wonderful scene when Peter is called by Jesus to follow him, and Peter goes to his wife, a little nervous, to tell her, hey, I got to go now. Sorry. And he's nervous. And what does she do? She looks at him and she says, finally, somebody sees the person that I see. She saw Peter's soul. She knew the man that he was and is, and she was filled with joy that Jesus would call him because Jesus saw the person she loved. Give our souls to our God. I think when we love God with all of our soul, we're holding nothing back. We're giving everything to him. We're revealing our whole hearts to him. And we let God reveal his whole heart to us. What about sharing our minds or loving God with all of our mind? Well, when you think about couples who fall in love, what's one of the first things that happens as they're falling in love? You want to know everything about them. How many siblings do you have? Where did you grow up? What do you love? What do you like to do in your spare time? What are the things you enjoy? What's difficult? How can I be there for you? You're trying to learn everything about the other person because you're growing in love. Well, I think the way that we grow in our love for God is by learning about him, growing in our knowledge and wisdom about who God is. So maybe that's opening up the scriptures and praying with those more and learning more about God through sacred scripture. Maybe that's through faith sharing groups, Bible studies. But what is the way that we are all expressing our love for God? By growing in that wisdom, by growing in our knowledge of who he is, to love God with all of our mind. And finally, to love God with all of our strength. I think this is the one that's the challenge I want to give all of us this weekend, because love has to look like something. If you marry somebody and you spend your life together, but then they never want to spend time with you or never say I love you, well, does it look like anything? You have to see the love acted out. Loving God with all of our strength is love in action. It's showing God how much we love him. Part of that's by the second command that Jesus gives us this weekend. Love our neighbor as ourselves. To love concretely. To forgive when it's hard. To give to the needy, to the poor, like we talked about last week, who need our charity, who need our help. But the other part of it, I think, is our parish. How do we serve our parish community? How are we volunteering and serving in ministries? One of the things that's beautiful, and again, this 10:30 Mass is a big indicator of it, we're getting closer and closer to pre-pandemic levels of numbers. That's awesome, and I'm excited about it. But where we're not close is pre-pandemic levels of volunteers and ministries. That's the place that we need more help. And we can only do things with the help of everyone here together. And so my encouragement for you is to think about, how am I showing my love? How am I loving God with all my strength? But when I give back in time and energy to the parish, how am I serving our parish community? And by showing up and helping us do things like donuts. After Mass, hoorah, we're going to have donuts for the first time in a long time. But how are we showing up and showing our love for God with all of our strength by what we do? So here we are this weekend, where Christ is asking us to be mindful of the thing that we spend all of our time, money, and energy on, and to be willing to refocus that a little bit to him, so that we can love our God with all of our heart, with all of our soul, with all of our mind, and all our strength.